Before we begin, I'd just like to say thank you to my friends at Hair Saloon for supporting this podcast and for providing space at their corporate offices to record it. Hair Saloon's mission has as much to do with the restoration of men as it does with the business of hair cutting. They try to make a difference in the lives of the thousands of men who come through their doors every week. Hair Saloon is based in St. Louis, Missouri, and if you've ever been interested in running your own business and want to work with great people, I would highly recommend you check out the Hair Saloon franchise opportunity. Go to hairsaloonfranchise.com to find out more information. That's hairsaloonfranchise.com. Also, a quick reminder to subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already, and to please take 2 minutes to give us your review. And if you have a question or a comment you'd like to share with our listeners, go to Suzanne at thesuzannevenkershow.com. Welcome back to the Suzanne Venker Show and to another great conversation with my partner, Andre Paradis, a fellow relationship coach out in LA whose website is projectequinox.net. He also has a podcast called How the Culture Gets It Wrong, which I highly recommend. And anybody who follows me knows exactly why I would recommend any podcast that's called How the Culture Gets It Wrong.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hello, Andre. How are you today?
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. It's always nice to see your face. I wish everybody else could see you. But before I continue, I wanted to first respond to the people who've told me that they wish, I've gotten a lot of comments and emails from people who love the podcast and say that they wish that they could call in some way, because every time they hear something, they're like, I want to say something. And, you and I both know the feeling. We get it. Unfortunately, that's not an option. This is not a call-in show, obviously. So I just want to tell those people that when they're in the moment and they're having that feeling like, I want to say this, to just pause. They can actually pause the podcast, right? That's the beauty of the podcast. And go to their computers and type in Suzanne at thesuzannevenkershow.com. And they can email the question or comment right then, and I will almost certainly address it at the next podcast or in the coming podcast. So there is a way to get to me, I guess is what I'm trying to say, even though it can't be in that moment. And I so know that feeling. So I want to make sure that people understand they do have an option. It'll be a delayed response to it, but at least they can get it out. So that's, again, Suzanne at thesuzannevenkershow.com. Okay, Andre, before we get to the subject at hand today, I have to ask you if you saw the secret Superbowl commercial last night. And hold on, I should tell everybody that we tape all these a week in advance. So when you hear this, the Super Bowl will be exactly 1 week old. So that's why I'm referring to last night. But anyway, did you see that? Yes. You know which one I mean? I know there were a lot of them. So if anybody didn't see it, this is the secret antiperspirant for women. It showed doing the final kick, and there's all this, uproar and hoopla, and then she kicks it in the goalposts, and everyone shouts, "Yay, yay, yay, yay!" And then she takes off her helmet, and it's a woman. Yeah. And then they span to the audience to show the shock that it's a woman who did this, and then at the very end of the ad, it says, "Let's kick inequality." Now, I have to say, first of all, I love how they show a kick and not a tackle. because ironically, I had seen somebody do put something on Twitter showing a woman getting tackled by a man. And what a joke it would be if they ever attempted to show the opposite on this commercial, that any woman could actually, shouldn't say any woman, I'm sure some women, some very small percentage of women could tackle a man, but obviously they are not equal in any way, shape, or form physically, so that would just be hysterical. So the whole thing about at the end saying, "Let's kick inequality," you can imagine my response. I'm sure you had the same. But I don't understand how people honestly think about football or any sport where men are obviously going to excel over women as being a matter of inequality, and using that to, I mean, I just can't get my head around people who actually fall for that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Am I crazy?
No, I mean, I find that even offensive and stupid.
Obviously. I mean, why would the fact that men can excel in sports, some sports, many sports, better than women have anything to do with whether or not you're equal to a woman? And the idea that the woman's going to be in any way it makes me crazy.
Physically equal. That's what they're trying to say. Physically equal.
Well, of course, they don't say that. It just says at the end, let's kick inequality. And then I want to freeze frame that. And I want everyone to stop and think. Stop and think. Freeze frame that message. And let's talk about this. And let's think about this. Are you serious? Do they honestly believe that the people receiving that message are going to think, yeah, that's right. Let's go. Women need to be the same. That's the only way that women can be equal to men. By doing the exact same thing. I mean, it makes me nuts. I'm sorry.
Well, it's just homogenizing the whole thing, right? Equality across all boundaries, across all fields, across all, physically. The idea that that's even thinkable, ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
What was the last thing? So if we're going to go there, okay, let's go there all the way. Why don't we just go there all the way? So we're going to bring, we're going to eliminate all, male, female categories in the Olympics. So we're going to have just, the sprinting, just men and women together, and all the sports where men and women together, and we'll watch. So first we'll cut the Olympics in half, and we'll watch all the men take all the medals.
Right, exactly.
What the hell is the point? So if that's where you're going to take it, it makes no sense. So everybody has a sense knowing that makes no sense. So why is this on TV?
Exactly, like the people are idiots who are receiving this message. I mean,
moron.
As if men would actually tackle women the way they would tackle a man. That's where my head went. I went, you think men are actually going to tackle women? Like, they're going to take them to the ground? They're going to do that.
And what kind of woman wants that anyway? Like, do you really want to get a helmet on and, like a jock strap and get on the field and just bang your head against a whole bunch of other women or men or like what? No, you know what I mean? No, it's stupid. It's stupid. This idea of I've noticed also on television, this, right? Every commercial, like one after the other, like if there's a ball game going on, the all girl team, right? If there's a cleaning product, it's men. If the people driving, she's driving, he's in the passenger seat. Like everything is purposely upside down on purpose. Not a little bit, all of it.
All of it.
And this ridiculous game of that doesn't help anything, that doesn't bring equality, because all of this knows better. But it makes people talk about it, whine about it.
Yes, there you go.
Like it means more than it does. And I get especially offended when men are feminists and you go, I love a powerful woman, my wife takes care of everything. I'm like, oh, you lazy piece of crap is what it is. That's what it is. So you like to you get it to, she does everything in the name of you go girl, and you get to do nothing but, chill. And because that's usually where they are, right? These guys who love powerful women typically don't want to do what it takes to what men like the rest of us do type thing.
Right.
So it's this, I don't know.
The bottom line is that it's doing the exact opposite of what it's wanting to do, which is just causing huge conflict between women and men. It's not going to bring them together to force something that can't be. You're just causing problems. So you put that up there and you say this is empowerment, and I say it's bull, because ultimately all it's doing is creating this huge chasm between women and men. It's causing a conflict. It's not bringing them together. It's just insane. Anyway, I just had to get that out of my system before we moved on. I mean, there's actually other commercials that we could talk about, which I'm not going to get into, but there were a couple of them that were just so feminist driven. It was
the one in space.
Yes, the one in space.
And women need space, and the more space. And I started throwing things at the TV.
You did not, did you?
I did. I do throw story stuff at the TV. I was barking. I was trying to be louder than them because I had a room full of people.
Oh, you did?
I did. And so I had my wife and my son's girlfriend were the women in the room, and the rest were men. And I just lost it. I just want to be louder than TV. It's ridiculous. How many women want to be in space? No, they get it because they get me like you, right? They just sort of go, they shake their head like, yeah, well, we don't need that crap either. We don't. But
oh my God. And then that goes back to, I'm getting off topic still, but that goes back to the parenting. Because ultimately, if you don't have a parent like you or I who are going to send this message, then the other alternative is to turn it off and not watch it. But if to just watch it and not do anything about it, I mean, it's okay if you're older. I don't care about older adult children.
Sure.
But young children, turn it off. I mean, if you cannot complain that these people are sending this message to your children if you're allowing them to watch it. End of story. You have the possibility to turn off.
See, for me, I got mad because I'm watching this infiltration, this commercial going in millions of homes with, affecting younger minds and polluting, and so I wouldn't let it in my house. That's why I started yelling.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I know, it's just like a plague.
It is like a plague, Andre. I'm serious. It's cancer. It's cancer.
Yes, completely.
Almost 100% of my coaching clients are struggling with the same dilemma. Their circumstances vary, but the underlying issue is the same. They're moving against the biological tide rather than with it. The woman is attempting to be the hunter, and the man the gatherer. And it's not working. In fact, it's a downright mess. Successful single women can't understand why they can't find a man, and couples who've been married 5 to 10 years are concerned they're headed for divorce. The resentment has set in, and the sex and respect are gone. They're right to be worried. During private coaching sessions with me, you will learn how the masculine-feminine dynamic is designed to create peace between the sexes, the vast differences between women and men, things like why your wife nags and what your husband needs, and why your wife or husband blames you for all of your problems. So head on over to SuzanneVenker.com if you want immediate results in your relationship. That's SuzanneVenker.com. Okay, so that's the end of my rant. Let's get to what we're going to talk about today. So we are going to cover 4 ways to divorce-proof your marriage. Ooh. Okay. And these, so I actually wrote about this sometime last year, and I obviously, let's face it, you could probably come up with 10 things, but I wanted to think of what I felt like was the most significant, the most powerful and immediate tools or thought processes for this. Some things that I've learned and I know are a big issue for particularly younger, and by the younger I mean, anyone under 40 today struggle with much more so than our generation. Okay. Number 1, take the option to divorce off the table.
Absolutely.
I mean, it sounds so simple, right? But it's amazing how a thought process will ultimately bring about the desired result. So my argument is that if you pretend that it's not an option, even though obviously it technically is, the way you approach your problems, your conflicts, is vastly different from the way you approach them if you think you can always leave. And I wrote a lot about, Barry Schwartz wrote this great book called The Paradox of Choice. And he had some great references to this idea. It wasn't about marriage, but you can use it for marriage. And he did mention that several times. It's that the very option of being allowed to change your mind fosters the idea that you can change your mind.
Right.
But when you think you're stuck, there's a psychological process that actually goes on in your head where you handle the whole process of the decision making and how to extricate yourself from that conflict differently if you assume you can never leave.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's I have a client who's struggling with her marriage, but the baseline where she starts at is nobody's going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. We're going to work this out. So they're looking for help with my help, my support, and you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But the baseline is no one's going anywhere. They have 2 children. Mm-hmm. They're two young boys. And that's, and for me, that's fantastically easy because exactly that thinking, that mindset opens all the options.
All the options.
As opposed to, in a culture where we're all self-centered so much, it's all about I, right? Forget the children, forget my husband, forget what's going to do the rest of our lives. I'm not happy. Mm-hmm. So right? Mm-hmm. When you actually have children in my world, it's maybe narrow-minded or radical, but it's not about you anymore.
That's right.
It's not about you anymore.
It's not
It's
about you
about everything that you have to do. You brought these children here. It's not about you anymore. So I is out the window to a point, obviously, right? It's not about being tortured or miserable. But, most people get divorced, to me, are not being tortured, and the misery could be self-inflicted.
Oh, absolutely.
By this eye syndrome. That's all.
And of course, and actually that gets to number 4, so you're ahead of me there. We're not to that. Hold on to that thought. But back before no-fault divorce, or I'll call it unilateral divorce, was a thing, and you had to show, just cause why you'd want to get divorced. Prior to that time, people absolutely had the mindset that marriage is for life. I mean, that's not debatable. It's not a coincidence that marriages lasted with that mindset, and that divorce skyrocketed, which it did since the 1970s, since the idea that if you're not happy, you can leave took hold. And of course, it was never phrased in that way. It was a very slow sort of drip process over the years. And of course, divorce is actually down right now, but that's not because people have learned how to be married. It's because they're not getting married.
Right.
They're either single or they're cohabiting. Yeah. So if you're not getting married in the first place, of course there's less divorce. So that's nothing to be excited about. But yeah, so it was a process. And as soon as it became inculcated into society where it's no longer questionable, of course you should not be suffering in a marriage. You should, no. And the idea of staying together for the sake of the kids, I mean, that's so countercultural. It used to be a given. Yeah. Now, if you say that, the people who argue against that really honestly believe that's bad for kids, for you to be in a marriage for their sake. Whereas I want to say, well, actually, no, they're pretty good with that. They don't care whether you're happy or not. That's the bottom line. Now, if you're beating on each other, that's different. And if you're screaming at each other, that's different. I'm not talking about that. But barring anything really destructive going on, they really don't care how in love you are with each other. Just doesn't work that way. They just want you there.
Well, and the repercussion, they say a divorce, people always think kids are resilient, they'll just get over it, right? They're resilient. They go, a divorce to children is the same as throwing them in front of a moving bus. You destroy their lives.
I love all of your analogies.
Factual.
Factual.
They never recover. So when daddy leaves the house, the boys and the girls lose. The boys lose instantly all their sense of well-being, goes out the door with dad. Mm-hmm. Their identity, their role model, and their confidence goes out with daddy forever.
This, of course, is one of the reasons why we cannot talk about the truth about what divorce is like, because it's so prevalent, right? So I haven't told people this yet, but I'm going to have my husband as a guest next month. He is a child of divorce, product of divorce, and can vouch for what you just said and tell people exactly why and what that looks like in real time. I mean, what does your life really look like after those papers are signed? Nobody wants to talk about that because it's really ugly.
It is.
Yep.
This destroys lives, destroys the future. Mm-hmm. The girls don't recover either. They can't trust men. Mm-hmm. He left.
Yeah, I mean, it's catastrophic. I mean, all the relationship problems that we're dealing with today are directly stem from divorce, among other things. But that's a biggie, maybe the biggest.
Oof,
okay, so that's number 1. Take the option to divorce off the table. So just get it out of your head. Which, by the way, there isn't a married person alive, in my opinion, who's been married for decades who hasn't thought about divorce. I mean, but they don't think about it seriously necessarily. You can think about it just as in a passing way without taking it seriously, because you're human and it's normal and it's hard to be with the same person day in and day out and not have thoughts of, gee, what would life be like without them? The trick is to catch yourself by realizing that, okay, it's okay to have that thought. That doesn't make you, there's nothing wrong with having the thought, but make sure that you follow it up with, oh, it wouldn't be any better. What would that really look like? The idea, and that gets into the green grass syndrome and the idea that there's something else out there for you that wouldn't look like what you're dealing with today. And I have news for you. It does not work that way. It just doesn't work that way. You're going to have you'll have a new person with a new set of problems.
Mm-hmm. So, it's just the same. It's going to be life as life is, up and down and good and bad. And, change a partner, still life.
Exactly. There you go. Exactly. Okay.
I mean, and if
go ahead.
I was going to say, if you haven't handled, like the problems that you've had that caused the problem between the two, you're going to do it again for the next one.
Exactly.
So that's what's ridiculous about splitting, because you actually missed the lesson.
Precisely. There you go. Bingo. Because you're going to take the problem with you into a new marriage.
Well,
Yeah. So, okay. Anything else
you
to
got
say
it.
on that
Then
subject?
then you blame each other. You then blame each other. Like, it's his fault, it's her fault. Well, no, it's both of you. Duh.
Listen to Andre, everybody. Duh. That's about as profound as it gets. Duh. And I totally agree. Okay, number 2. Moving on.
Yes.
You ready for this one?
Okay. Am I?
Yeah. Lower your expectations. Now, I have to say, when I had a book I wrote about 10 years ago, and I was working with an editor who didn't want me to say lower my expectations, but just to make them, like, I think I did say something different, like make your expectations realistic or something to that effect. And now I'm like, lower your damn expectations, okay? Because they are way too high. They are way, way too high. And of course, this is a problem that women have far more than men, because their needs are off the charts and their wants are off the charts, whereas men are just very simple with their needs. So this is really an issue for women. It just is, okay? Yeah. So I don't want to hear from people who say, well, I have it the other way around, because obviously you can have it the other way around. It's just that more often than not, it's women, and it's a big problem for the younger generation in particular, because they were raised with this inflated sense of themselves and what they deserve and what they should have and perfection and all of the rest that you and I probably didn't grow up with. So it's a double whammy for them. But yeah, lower those expectations. So just to drive home the significance of these inflated expectations today, I'm going to play a clip for everybody from an Oprah. Well, I don't know if it's Oprah or Steve Harvey, but they're both sitting there together. Go.
Okay, we have Linnell's wish list for men. We're going to scroll through it all, and I'll try to read along. Here, we're going to scroll along. My ideal man is African-American, dark complexion, 6'2", athletic body, 230 pounds, average dark eyes, straight, white teeth, all 32. God-fearing, spiritual, attends, millionaire, generous, family-oriented as a family, sports spectator, not his friends, stand together, dedicated to loving me, determined to make our love run, sincere and genuine, nice, honest, trustworthy, faithful, dependable, mature, understands, chivalry, practices, adventurous, will try anything, sexually compatible, can dance or willing to learn various types of music, wants to be married, loves something, faithful, can communicate well, good listener, romantic, clean and tidy, well-dressed, nice shoes, wants children, at least 2, spontaneous, healthy, likes to cook, and what is the last one? Drug-free, drinks alcohol occasionally or not at all.
Yeah, that would be the Lord.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, when I saw that, I laughed. I said, of course, it does seem extreme in that you think, oh, no, everybody wouldn't say that. And of course, when you put it out on paper and look at the list, and people can't see it, but you can actually see that on, like they wrote out each one, and it was pretty, and you should have seen the face of Steve Harvey. His mouth just kept dropping. It was really funny. But it really isn't that far removed from reality. It just, even if women in particular don't say that, in their heads in particular, they do want, and they do look for, maybe not that entire list, but maybe half the list. Too big of a list, let's put it that way. So having those expectations, obviously, I mean, there's simply no way to succeed. You're never going to find it, bottom line is, and you're never going to be happy for whoever you do find.
Do you know the way I say it? Because it's very, very popular. Like if you go into the world of personal development, right, in relationships, right, every program that I know of, I'm sure not every, but they have women do what they call the B list, like who he has to be list, right?
Okay.
Which is what this woman was doing.
Yeah.
And in my world, the B list is like how to be alone list.
How to be what?
Alone.
Oh yeah, how to be alone.
This is how to
right.
be alone list. No one can live up to that expectation. This is a unicorn that you invented that has all the qualities plus tall and rich and funny and dark with a six-pack. What the hell?
What the hell?
Right? No. And then, in this unicorn, by the way, if there's one, because there might be one, has to like you back. So, hello, I say throw your list away because you're going to be alone list is what that's going to do. So go out and channel real man.
I had a relationship coaching session once with an unmarried 30-something woman, and this is a true story, whose friends told her to drop any guy she dates who has the slightest annoying habit. Because I said, well, after I picked up, my mouth was dropping. I'm like, what? I'm like, so I said, what was the reasoning? And she said, because his habits will become even more impossible to live with. Well, okay. First of all, there isn't a person alive who doesn't have an annoying habit, women included.
Oh, no.
So there's that. There's that. I don't think men have the, lock on bad habits, although given how much we like to joke about it, maybe we would think that that's true. But there's plenty of things that women do that a man would consider,
oh, my God.
Yeah. We just aren't allowed to talk about them. So it has this assumption, or you have this idea that men are the ones with the bad habits because, God forbid, you say anything about a woman.
But I know. So, again, reality? No. Ridiculous? Yeah.
Who the hell doesn't have a bad habit? I mean, how's
well,
that even...
the funny thing, for me, in my world, when you dismantle this ridiculous, narrow-minded thinking, right, of perfection, and it's actually the thing about people that is a little bit off that become the most interesting about them. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. That's,
you know what I mean?
That's interesting.
That's my man. Look at him go. That's what he does. He likes to mow the lawn in his shorts. That's my man. He's a whatever. It's the thing about the person, the quirks that actually become the thing about them that you like the most. But you have to give them a chance to get to know the person beyond all the stuff, right? It's not it's the exact opposite of where they're trying to teach or where they think is right. It's opposite.
Well, and then you think about the way that would play out in an actual day-to-day marriage and just dealing with anything. If your mindset is that you're annoyed by these things, you've set up sort of your head to think negatively about the person, so that you're not, one of the things you want to do, of course, is to flip that and think complete opposite, positive thoughts, in order for your relationship to flourish. The more you're mired in negative thoughts about the person, what's wrong with him or her, which again, I'm going back to women because they're the ones who typically do this. Men are just a different animal. They don't think about all the bad things about their wives, and men marinate in what they don't like about them it's just not correct. I mean, tell me, Andre, since you're the man, in case people don't believe me, would you please?
The fact that you don't like to watch the game with me, it's fine. I get that. You don't like to watch the game. I'm not making you wrong for that.
Yeah.
The fact that I like cars or the junkyard that you think is stupid, or I get that. You can't. Why would you like everything I like? The stuff that. So men have no problem, seemingly, understanding the stuff that he gets off on or he likes doesn't mean that she needs to, or that and doesn't make him feel uncomfortable necessarily that she's not into what he's not into. And whatever version, but to women take that personally. Women take that personally. You should like what I like. You should be liking my friends. You should want to go to the store with me. You should, and they take that on it's
absolutely.
The fact that he's not thinking the same is a problem. It's not a problem.
No.
Not for men anyway. That's typically what happens. That's what you're saying.
Yes, I absolutely have seen that. I actually have a couple I'm working with now who she wants him. That's exactly everything you just said. She wants him to do exactly what she wants to. Well, for example, rom-coms. I said, this is one of their homework was that he didn't have to watch any more rom-coms, but he can't also ask her to watch the war films. But it never happens that way, that women go to all the war films, but it somehow happens that the men end up in the rom-coms. Why is that?
Well, same thing, right? Because, just to me, basically, is like, to a woman, she has to, how you feel kind of runs your show all the time. Like how you feel moment to moment is how you are. Just, like the weather, it'll change, whether it's his fault or not. It's just how you feel is how you feel. There's nothing else going on than how you feel. So if you feel bad and it's something he said or didn't say or did or didn't do, then it's his fault. So he has to change. And I think that's where the mechanism kicks in. Like he's the source of the pain. He's the source of the disconnect.
Right.
I feel bad because so then he's wrong. Where guys don't do this because we're not feeling based. So we typically go, oh, well, she didn't like that. Okay. Like I can separate myself from it.
Yeah.
To the feminine, it's difficult to separate.
Such a big deal, the compartmentalization. I know that from personal experience because I'm really weird. I'm very guy-like in that respect. I can completely compartmentalize to the point where my daughter thinks there's something wrong with me. I do it too easily. And I don't know why it is that way, but I certainly understand that most women aren't that way. And they'll hold on to things and take things personally. And I just don't identify with it, but I certainly see it. And it must be very hard for men.
This is how it gets stuck that way, right? Like, so if she's unhappy, he's going to fix it. So he has to go to the chick flick. Yeah. But he can't ask her to go to the war movie because she'll be unhappy and he'll pay for this the rest of the evening and the rest of the week. Well, it's not worth it. So fold.
Oh my goodness.
See it? So
okay. So moving on. So number 1, take the option to divorce off the table. Number 2, lower your expectations. Number 3, get rid of the word me and replace it with we. And that goes back to what you were alluding to about the I. Now, this was interesting because I was listening to Dave Ramsey. I'm now into Dave Ramsey's podcast. And, that's all. For anybody who doesn't know, he's the money guy. He wrote Total Money Makeover. So he helps everybody with their money problems. But sometimes, very often, if you're in a relationship or a marriage, this bleeds over into talking about their relationship, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things he had said to this couple, the husband was the one who called in, and he kept saying I or me, or he was separating the monies. I think he didn't have any debt, and he married a woman who had $70,000 in student loan debt. And he kept saying, like, I help her, or how am I going to do this for her? Just separating the two. And the very first thing he said was that your biggest problem right now is this is not her debt. This is your debt. This is a group debt. This is a we. When you marry, all the money goes into a pot. And I really am convinced that when it comes to millennials in particular, this is foreign to them because they were so mired in this concept of independence and keeping everything separate. And they don't understand that when you get married, that goes away. That's not how a marriage is supposed to be. All the money's in one pot. So you should be talking about all money matters as though it doesn't matter who's making it. It doesn't matter what the source of the income is, where it comes from, who made it, who didn't make it. It's the family money. It's the pot.
Yep.
And I think I'm not just referring to money when I say get rid of the word me and replace it with we. I mean everything. Money is just the first thing that came to my mind because I think that's a big issue for young people today.
It is. Well, money is the number one. Yeah. You know why people fight and break it all apart. So that's a big calibrated one. Absolutely. And, love is the second one, the misunderstanding that happened there. It's us. It's not me and you. It's us. That's actually, for me, it was interesting when I was younger, for my background and my family and I didn't think I was going to get married. I didn't think I was going to have kids. I just could not see that work because I never saw it work. Do you know what I mean? It's just interesting. Are you laughing?
I'm laughing because that's exactly what my husband would say. That's his story. So, yeah.
Right? So, and I remember I was the one who said over and over as a younger man, marriage is stupid. It's a piece of paper. You don't need that, right? Millennials say this like they breathe now because, it is, right? Except the surprise for me, and it became a natural evolution in our relationship to just be dating and to be, to want to take the next step to make it seriously. And I didn't even know it was really organically fluid, which surprised me because I was just so against it. But my biggest surprise is after we had the wedding that I do, it changed everything for me. And I think it changed everything for her as well. I'm speaking for myself, is that before it was me and her, and it was me and her doing what me and her do, and then it became us. And all of a sudden, like, it just changed everything about the future, about how we live, about possibilities, about what I wanted for her, about, like, the first thing that happened, I had to change her car. It was not good enough. Yeah. She traveled a lot, and they were like us. It was us, you know. And then when the children were born, God, it went through the roof in a whole different way.
Yes, absolutely.
What a gift. What a gift. I did not experience that, you know, and I don't know if you can even explain that until you go through it, but it's unbelievable what it does for, you know, like, accountability and take care of your stuff, and, you know, huge. Like, planning your future, and, like, it just changes everything, and everything becomes worth doing for that.
For the unit, right? For the unit.
You're committed to us forever.
I mean, if somebody were to ask me today, you know, how did you stay married for 22 years? Let's put it that way. That would be probably the number one thing I would say is every single decision we've made, everything has been about the family, everything, the unit. There's no such thing as his account and my account. Yep. Which, by the way, I don't mean you can't have separate accounts if that makes it easier to do the billing or do the budgeting or whatever, but that it has to be, they're all joint accounts and everybody knows what's going on in each one, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's just a group process. So there's never been anything that he would purchase or vice versa that the other one doesn't know if it's significant. I'm not talking about $5 coffee.
Of course.
I don't buy $5 coffee. Thank you very much. But whatever the case may be. A lot of people, again, I keep going back to the younger set, millennials in particular, would take offense to that because the idea is that it's all about who earned it, because everything's been about competition, right? So instead of it being a complementary relationship or a family unit, everybody's out for themselves. Let's put it that way. Everyone's out for themselves, and they have to watch out for themselves. And so you're responsible for yourself and your money and your decisions. And God forbid you should ever give up that independence mindset and then put it onto a group or a joint mindset. That's just taboo. They don't know. They just don't understand that that's part of the reason why they're having a trouble with their relationships.
Absolutely. They lost. They don't. The idea of partnership doesn't exist.
Yeah. Which is ironic because that's supposedly what equality is supposed to be all about, is being a partner. You know, you don't have husband and wives anymore. You have, what's your partner's name or your partner? Right. Well, when you say partner, I don't know if you're talking about a lesbian and gay person or whether you're talking about a married. There's a reason why we have these labels. I need the labels, please.
Right. But even like the other partnership means two dancing together in some communion in going the similar direction, hopefully, so it lasts. Partnership means not me, not you, us. Partnership, right? How do we do this together? And again, the millennials' idea of not being able to partner or see things long term or see things possible long term from this culture of everyone's being divorced and they don't see relationship being helpful, lasting, healthy. So they bang together for a little bit, staying independent, not being vulnerable, never get down deep into what it really takes to connect, bond with somebody on a deeper, profound level. They don't do it. And so they go from one to the next to the next, and they think they think they're better than the rest.
Yeah, they do. They really do. I mean, okay, so this gets into number 4, but we're just, this segues really well into that. So the last one, which is the biggest one, in my opinion, is to dump the concept of equality.
Please.
Dump the concept of equality. If you really want to divorce-proof your marriage, and you asked me, what is the single greatest thing you could possibly do? That's what I would say. Dump it. It's screwing you up in ways that you don't even realize how bad it's screwing you up because you've been so brainwashed into thinking in a way that is actually counterproductive to making your relationship last.
Amen.
I mean, That's, of course, I mean, people who keep up with this podcast know that we cover topics related to equality, pretty much every time. I mean, that's why we do what we do. It's
Right.
about replacing the idea of equality with understanding male and female nature and how it is intended to work in conjunction with one another. And if you pitch that and you try to go against nature, you are going to screw it up. I mean, I cannot say it any stronger. You're gonna fail. You're gonna fail.
Yeah,
It'll last for a little while. It'll float. Like, remember at one point you said give it about 10 years, and that's about right. Because even the married couples that I hear from, they've been married just about, I say, between 5 and 10 years, closer to 10 before it has really hit the fan.
Yeah, it's 10 years. We have this cycle. We know this. There's research and data on this. In the name of equality, in the name of, she leads and he follows, in the name of this new way. Mm-hmm. That empowers women, this new way, this better way, this new whatever. 10 years, 10 years,
10 years,
10 years, and it falls apart.
So,
and then they go and do it again with somebody else because they haven't learned it, which is another. So people have 3-4 different long-term relationships that all fail, and kids are watching this.
Kids are watching this, and the reason why it takes, by the way, that amount of time, or often does, is because it really is about the presence of children. Because once you have children, then you do automatically go into these very traditionally gendered roles automatically. So it's the presence of children that before you really see, if there were no children, you would actually think men and women are equal. You could. You could conceivably. You're still going to struggle if you didn't have kids, because you're coming at everything differently, and you're going to see that eventually when you're married too. But it's stronger when the children come, because there's something about having them that forces a woman to go into nesting mode and a man to go into protecting and providing mode, and that's visceral. And once that starts, then if you believed it wasn't going to happen, you're going to constantly be fighting the other person, because that's not how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to, make for every meal I make, you're supposed to make one. Or, I see these millennials who are so happy because their husbands are in the kitchen all the time, right? Well, I laughed so hard because here's a great story too. I said something about, it was at a party, it was a family party, and I said something about having made something for the party, just an appetizer or something. And Bill said something about it, and I don't know. I don't remember the details, but our niece, who's a millennial, turned to Bill and said, well, you could have made it too, Bill. Well, we just stopped there, and Dad, you get in the habit of calling your spouse Dad, so Mom and Dad sometimes. Bill, I held my tongue because it was his family member. I thought, oh my God, you poor millennial. You are so screwed if your automatic knee-jerk reaction to the fact that he didn't make the appetizer before you means that we don't have an equal marriage. Honey, sit down. Get on the stool. We got to talk. We got to talk.
Well, for me,
as if he's never in the kitchen, which, by the way, if he were never in the kitchen and we liked it that way and it worked, that would be fine. He happens to be in the kitchen a fair amount. But if he weren't, that's okay too. That doesn't mean your marriage isn't equal if it's an agreement. Oh my gosh. It was hard to keep still.
Yeah, see, for me, I don't even want that conversation with a mind like this. Like, I will walk away. I'll just let you sit there by yourself. Like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to negotiate it. I want to explain it.
I did find myself wanting to explain. I didn't, but it wasn't conducive to it, but oh my God.
Well, it gets elevated, you want to call them stupid, and they think you're stupid and clueless, it goes nowhere. It's like talking about politics. So for me, I just smile and I go, okay, in my head, you're an idiot, you know nothing, and go on, let's see how that turns out for you as I, go kiss my wife or something. Like,
I know. I'm seeing it all the time, because I actually do have a lot of nieces and nephews that are millennials, and they are very, very, very proud of the way they're doing things. And who am I? When it comes to, listen, if you haven't signed up for my coaching session, I keep my mouth shut, especially if it's family. If you don't ask, I don't speak. But they probably know what I think. It's just funny to see how proud they are. And I'm like, okay, check back with me in 15 years. Yeah.
Totally. Just proud, self-righteous.
Self-righteous.
You don't know.
No clue.
You don't know. Aunt Suzanne knows nothing.
Yes.
she's just stuck in back there.
Oh, absolutely, they think that.
I know.
Absolutely, they do. It's very funny.
She laughed. Yeah, and we'll talk later. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Okay, all right. So anyway, so that's a big one. That's obviously the biggest. So those are the four ways. I'm certain we could go on for another hour and list 5 more things, but we don't have time for that. So those are the biggest 4. Take the option of divorce off the table. Lower your expectations. Get rid of the word me and replace it with we. And dump the concept of equality. And if you do just those 4 things, and of course, that's not, okay, I'll just start that tomorrow. It's a big deal. I mean, you have to really focus in on that and read about that and learn about that. But I do believe that the divorce rate would plummet just with those 4 things.
I'm totally with you. It's not that hard. It takes a little
it's not hard. It's just hard.
Playing with.
It's such a different way of thinking about it. That's the hard part. The actual implementation, no, you're right, isn't
at all.
But you and I don't have to get that mindset removed from us first. So it's easier for us.
No, and look at what's on TV as the commercial we talked about earlier. If you start there with everything,
exactly,
everything is backwards. So now they're running up the stream. Fighting something that nature says, okay, go ahead. See how long it lasts.
Yep.
But it's forcing something
I wish there was a way to get the people that you and I are working with, and that they're the ones who coming 10 years later to us.
Right.
And say, how many times have you heard, if someone had just told me this at the beginning, I would be rich if I had a dime for every time somebody said that to me. Okay, not a dime, a dollar.
Where were you 10 years ago? Where were you when, we started coming apart?
Yep.
We went with the therapist and,
got more politically correct junk thrown down.
Yeah, when I'm going to say something horrible here, but it's not. It's actually factual. It's not horrible. It's just that if you have a female therapist, she's trying to bend him down to acquiesce to her. If you have a male therapist, she'll say he's taking your side. So marriage therapy, sometimes, and I'm not throwing everything away, but it's you know what I mean? It's often just it gets political, and the equality crap and the
infused into that field
and
now. You can't. I mean, if you were going to get a degree today in that as a young person, you're going to have to spew forth all that feminist crap in order to get the degree.
Right, in order to just pass. Yeah.
In order to pass. Yeah. I mean,
and I've had clients have said that we've been to therapy. It's crap. It's crap. It's crap.
In fact,
and then they didn't help. They made it worse. They made it worse. And then they find somebody like you or me who seemingly speaks
plain talk,
nature,
nature. That and honesty, and not anti-male, not anti-marriage, and not pro-equality. That's very unusual. And it's funny that we're mentioning this about a therapist, because next, let's see, I think it'll be April, and I'm doing a guest now once a month. But I have a local gal coming in here who's been around for decades, and she's the complete. She embodies that needle in a haystack that we're talking about. If you want to find if you want to find a therapist who's not like what we're talking about, it's like a needle in a haystack. And I've got one here locally, and she's going to come in, and it's
nice.
That'll be great. Because no one. I don't want to talk with anybody who's politically correct. Bottom line, anybody who comes in here has to be not PC before they come through the door. That's what we do here.
I get it. I get it. It's not, and again, it's not, you don't have to, it's not brain surgery. It's not that complicated. It's the example of what works everywhere around you.
Yep.
An example of everything that doesn't work everywhere around you. And my clients, I'm suspecting your clients, are the ones who've bought into the cultural paradigm.
Yes, that's right.
And and bought into it because everybody else does, and that's the right thing to do. And they come to me because they're like, you know what? I've done all this. Nothing's working. If nothing is working, I'm miserable. Blah blah blah. Apparently you have something else to say. So my girlfriend says she talked to you.
Exactly. Same.
And then here we are, right? Same. Just sort of bringing it back to what works. Not because we're self-righteous, because we're really lining up with physiology, nature, chemistry of that. Again, Dr. John Gray Dr. John Gray, Mars and Venus, in the past 10 years, done incredible stuff with chemistry to break down why we communicate differently, the reaction, the why we behave so differently through chemistry. So you could take gender out of the solution completely, as far as like a construct and being raised a certain way. It's chemistry first.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I just go on.
Absolutely. No, that's all right. Just so folks know, next week I'm having Rollo Tomasi on. He's the guest for, what month are we in here? February. He's my guest. So that'll be next week. So Andre won't be back till a week.
2 weeks.
No.
2 weeks later.
All right.
So good.
Yeah. So I'll miss you. It'll be a little bit.
Oh, I'll miss you too. Who am I going to go off with?
I don't know. Somebody.
Okay. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Andre.
Until next time.
You're the best.
Of course.
Talk to you soon. Well, that wraps up another edition of the Suzanne Venker Show. Don't forget to tune in next week when I talk with Rollo Tomasi, author of The Rational Male. And if you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. And if you have a question or comment for me, go to Suzanne at thesuzannevenkershow.com. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great week.